There are dramas that warm the heart, others that bring unforgettable romances, but there are also those that stand out for their courage in touching on open wounds in society. Juvenile Justice falls into this last category. Unlike a light-hearted and romantic narrative, it delves into delicate terrain, the world of juvenile justice in South Korea. It's a drama that doesn't simply entertain, but provokes profound reflections on law, morality, and humanity. The spoiler-free synopsis is simple. We follow a judge known for her rigid, harsh, and seemingly unsympathetic stance. When assigned to the Children and Youth Court, she begins to handle cases involving teenagers accused of crimes. With each trial, not only the application of the law arises, but also ethical dilemmas that challenge the very meaning of justice. More than simply punishing or acquitting, the stories reveal the complexity behind human choices. But what many don't know is that juvenile justice wasn't born by chance. Its creation is closely linked to real debates that took place and continue to take place in South Korea. The country, known for its technological development, vibrant pop culture, and social discipline, also faces serious issues related to youth. South Korea has one of the most controversial laws when it comes to juvenile crime. According to the law, minors under a certain age cannot receive the same punishments as adults, even if they have committed serious crimes. The goal of this law is to offer young people a chance at rehabilitation based on the principle that, because they are still developing, they can still be transformed through education and social support. In theory, this sounds like a humanistic and understanding view, but in practice, it generated enormous controversy. Several cases shocked Korean public opinion. Violent crimes committed by teenagers made headlines, sparking outrage and revolt. Many victims' families began demanding tougher laws, asking that minors be tried as adults for certain crimes. On the other hand, experts in psychology, education, and law argued that harsher penalties would not address the root of the problem, but would only increase recidivism. It was in this context that the idea of transforming fiction into a forum for debate emerged. Juvenile justice doesn't simply invent stories, it draws inspiration from situations that resemble real-life cases without directly citing them. The series gives voice to issues that have resonated in South Korean society for years. To what extent should a teenager be held accountable for their actions? What weighs more, immediate punishment or the chance for rehabilitation? The protagonist, played by Kim Hae-soo, was not chosen by chance. She is one of Korea's most respected actresses, known for taking on challenging roles. Her character is cold, calculating, almost inflexible. But this facade isn't just for dramatic impact. It symbolizes a segment of society that demands absolute firmness against crime. However, as we follow her journey, we realize that even the toughest people must confront their own convictions when reality proves more complex than the black and white of the law. The supporting cast is also crucial. Each courtroom colleague represents a different view of justice, some more focused on exemplary punishment, others inclined to believe in rehabilitation. This construction isn't random. It mirrors the very debate within Korean society. And the teenagers who appear in the cases aren't portrayed as caricatures of villains or innocent victims. They are three-dimensional characters with life stories marked by poverty, family neglect, social pressures, and even psychological problems. The series reminds us that behind every crime there is a story, and understanding that story does not mean justifying the error, but understanding its origins. The Netflix production focused on realism. The screenwriter conducted extensive research, interviewing justice system, professionals, psychologists, and social workers. Each episode features elements that could very well happen in real life. This authenticity is reinforced by the cinematography. Cool tones, harsh lighting, and courtrooms that seem suffocating. There's no glamour, no aesthetic relief. The visual environment was constructed to constantly remind us of the weight of justice and the responsibility of decisions. Another notable aspect is the use of sound. Instead of exaggerated musical scores, the series relies on silence, the echo of footsteps inside a courtroom, the turning of pages in a case. This sound design creates tension and forces the viewer to immerse themselves in the gravity of the moment. When music appears, it intensifies the emotional climaxes, reinforcing the impact of each decision. But juvenile justice isn't just about Korea. It resonates because the dilemmas it presents are universal. In Brazil, for example, lowering the age of criminal responsibility is a recurring debate. Just as in Korea, society is divided. On one side, those who demand harsher punishments. On the other, those who believe that the solution lies in policies of rehabilitation, education, and social inclusion. In the United States, some states allow juveniles to be tried as adults in certain cases, something equally controversial. In Europe, many countries invest in intensive rehabilitation programs, including psychological counseling and community reintegration. This international contrast shows that there is no ready-made formula. Each society seeks to balance responsibility, punishment, and rehabilitation differently, and perhaps that's why juvenile justice has been so successful outside of Korea, because it forces us to reflect on our own realities. The series' reception in 2022 was remarkable. It quickly entered Netflix's global rankings, attracting attention not only from drama fans, but also from critics and legal professionals. Some praised the production's courage in tackling such sensitive topics. Others felt the series was too heavy for the average audience. Regardless of opinion, the fact is that it fulfilled its purpose. It put juvenile justice at the center of conversation, not only in Korea, but in several countries. In the United States, some states allow juveniles to be tried as adults in certain cases, something equally controversial. In Europe, many countries invest in intensive rehabilitation programs, including psychological counseling and community reintegration. This international contrast shows that there is no ready-made formula. Each society seeks to balance responsibility, punishment, and rehabilitation in different ways. And perhaps that's why juvenile justice has been so successful outside of Korea, because it forces us to reflect on our own realities. An interesting detail is the educational impact the series has had. On online forums, many young people discuss the episodes, relating them to cases from their own countries. Professors and law researchers even used excerpts from the series as examples in classes and lectures. This demonstrates the power of audiovisual media when it transcends the barrier of entertainment and becomes a tool for social reflection. Ultimately, juvenile justice doesn't offer easy answers. It doesn't point to a single path as right or wrong. On the contrary, the series exposes the complexity of the topic and invites the viewer to reflect. And this is perhaps its greatest virtue, making each of us question our own convictions about justice, because judging is easy from the outside. But when we look closely, we realize that reality is much more difficult. The drama reminds us that justice isn't just about applying the law to the letter, but also about considering the human being behind each case, acknowledging pain, failures, and trauma, without ever neglecting responsibility for the actions committed. After finishing the series, one is left with the feeling that the courtroom is not just a place of judgment, but also a mirror of society. Each sentence reflects our collective choices to invest in punishment or transformation, to look to the future, or simply repeat the past. And perhaps that's why juvenile justice remains so relevant. It's not just a drama, it's a reminder that justice begins long before the courtroom. It begins at home, at school, in the community. How we treat our young people today will determine the kind of society we will have tomorrow. Juvenile justice is a call to empathy, but also to responsibility. It neither romanticizes nor simplifies. It shows that every decision matters and that in many cases what seems like the end of a life can actually be the beginning of a new story.